What happens when you put a career-focused woman with 2 kids trying to balance home and work life in a room with a microphone? Lots of laughter, tears, and great advice. I'm Jill Devine, and welcome to 2 Kids and a Career. Well, this is another first for 2 Kids and a Career, the first husband-wife duo. Do you guys feel so special that you're the first?
Oh, my. I do feel special. I'm glad he's along for the ride. I was always there by his side through the many years of playing in the league and all the moves and surgeries and everything. So it has been very heartwarming to see how supportive he is of me and what I'm doing here.
Well, let me introduce my guests, Chris and Lauren Pronger. For those who don't know Chris, which would be a shock, especially in the St. Louis area, former St. Louis Blue and in the Hockey Hall of Fame. And Lauren, born and raised here in good old St. Louis. So where did you go to high school?
Oh, my goodness.
There it is. I was wondering when that was going to come out.
I am proud to say I went to Villa de Chêne.
Before we get into the nitty-gritty, I noticed that a lot of retired professional athletes from the St. Louis Cardinals or the St. Louis Blues have decided to make St. Louis their home after their career is over. Now, I'm sure a lot of it might have to do with your wife, but is it just so magical here that this is where you want to choose to call home?
I think for a number of reasons. Number one, I think she's from here.
Right.
But number two, I think the community, the ease of living in the community and the quality of the people, up and down the board, from the business leaders in town to the ease of getting around, to the schools, to the nice areas to live, and on and on and on. I mean, there's a lot of qualities to St. Louis to like.
Right.
And I think when you start, I don't like traffic. I don't like sitting in my car for hours on end. And this is one of the few cities where you can get around and get where you want to be in a fashionable amount of time. And it's easy living. Our kids go to school 5 minutes from our house. Got a lot of friends and family here from when I played here in St. Louis, and enjoy living here. It's easy living.
Tell me a little bit about your kids.
Jack is 17, stands taller than his father now, and George is 15, and little Lila is 11.
I always joke around with these podcast episodes that my husband, we have 2 little bitties, and I can't ever see him being a boy dad. He just comes across as just a girl dad, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But people I've talked to who have gone from moms and dads, from boy to girl, they're like, whoa, man, that's completely different, besides the obvious things.
Yeah, I always joke with Chris. I'm like, okay, when Lila starts dating, and I actually grew up in the same family dynamics. I have 2 older brothers.
Okay.
And, when you start dating and the older brothers answer the door, these boys kind of get a little skittish, like, oh, I don't know about this. So you can only imagine. And my brothers did not stand as tall as Chris and Jack and George will be. So I always joke with Lila, and I'm like, when your first date comes around, I'm going to have to drive you to the end of the street so that you can go on a date, because this poor guy, I don't know if many boys are going to come to our front door.
Yeah, with the 3 of you?
Yeah.
And the emotions, though, man.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I hear boys growing up have emotions, but they're just not as intense. And our almost 3-year-old, oh my gosh.
I think they're channeled in a different direction. We're gonna use emotions.
Watch what you say. You're in a room with a bunch of women.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yes,
it's just a different type of emotion.
That's a whole nother episode.
Correct. It is. It is.
I wanted to talk to the both of you because you have just started Well Inspired Travels. And behind Well Inspired Travels, there are so many great lessons. And Lauren, this really started with you, but Chris wanted to come in and help and also provide some information on some dark days that he endured. So I know Well Inspired Travels really came to fruition because of something that happened with your childhood. And let's go ahead and just get into it and talk about what that was.
Yeah, my journey with all this started when I was a little girl at the age of 6. My dad was diagnosed with colon cancer and was given a year or 2 to live. And so, he was self-made from a small town in Oklahoma. And he turned to my mom and he said, listen, if that's the time I have left, I want to go travel the world with the family. And so that's what we did. He started curating these beautiful trips. The first summer we went over to Europe, and then we had a wonderful time. He was off of his treatment. So you can only imagine for a little girl at 6 years old, what I associated travel was he was vibrant. He was happy. He was whole. He was laughing. He had energy. And then we would go back, and he would go back to treatment. And I was like, what is this? I don't want to go back to school, and I don't want to see my father sick. And then he would start planning that next journey. We went over to Asia, and he started, beautifully planning this trip again. And it kind of, I really and sincerely believe it cheered him on to fight for his life, because back then, when he went through the chemo, it was like, okay, is the chemo or the cancer going to take him down first? And that went on now, it was 3-4 years. And at that point, they had more radical treatments, and eventually it saved his life. And so he lived pretty full life until he was 68.
Wow.
So, so my path as a young girl really was a love for travel and a whole different wellness thought of, this is bigger than just seeing the world. I saw my dad whole. So
when you travel, you definitely are in your best place. You're happy.
You forget about life at home and anything. And that's a beauty in traveling, but also what a gift it is to see different cultures, to try different foods. And, I think it was, a blessing as kids to be able to do that. And we can have continued to do that for the rest of our lives, and not abroad as much because of Chris's career and so forth. But so it kind of evolved into this whole concept. I don't know if, you want to chime in here?
I think part of it was when I was playing, needing to source properties that I was going to be able to work out at. I needed to eat a certain way. When you go on vacation, we talk about it not all the time now, but when you go on vacation, you don't want to take time out of your training or your life, so to speak, or your job, because it's so finite and so short. You need to be able to train. You need to be prepared to play the game. And while you still want to have those memories with your kids and those vacations, you still need to put the work in. And we would source properties where I could train, where we could still have a great time, but I could still eat a certain way and continue on training for the upcoming season. And, you go away, whether it be an all-star break or now these guys with their bye week, you want to be able to relax, but you still want to be able to work out, and you need to source certain gyms and things of that nature to continue. And then as my career wound down and I got hurt and, struggled for a couple of years and trying to figure things out, we'd go away on just vacations. I wasn't working out. I was a little more portly. And to be gentle.
Anyway.
And, I think, you see, you go to these destinations where you're hanging out on the beach or you're going out in the pool with the kids and you're seeing them laugh and enjoy the different cultures we'd go see, whether it's in Mexico or the Caribbean or what have you, and, enjoy the family time. And then ultimately you're kind of working your way back into the gym. You start feeling a little bit better. You use that as part of your mental well-being, and you're using that as a form to continue to get better, and you're in a positive environment, and you're not sitting in the dark in a room, and you're kind of out and about and moving around. And I think it's important to get out of that doldrums and get out of that dark place, so to speak, and get out in the light and see the sunshine and see everybody in their best light. And travel's been a big part of that.
Was there a time before where you weren't eating the healthiest, or you weren't doing the things that you have now realized are great for your body?
I like chocolate bars. I like, I think as a professional athlete, you like to eat a certain way,
right.
But when you finish a game and you got a game the next day, you're eating whatever you can to carb up just to get energy. I eat a couple pieces of pizza. I'd get on the plane and then I'd eat 3 meals, and you're just constantly trying to fuel your body. I think if you remember when Michael Phelps was swimming, he was eating 20,000 calories or whatever it was. You're basically forcing yourself to eat to get the calories in because you're burning them so fast. And for me anyways, a lot of guys don't have that same body composition or metabolism. For whatever reason, I burned it off quick, and it just I needed to constantly be eating during the season, and sometimes I had a few cheat meals.
Well, I think it's okay. But
well, maybe more than one.
In a day.
Yeah.
What I'm learning, and this is something I'm going to teach my girls, it's about being strong and healthy. It's not about diets. It's not about, and that's even for me too, that I'm trying to learn the benefits of certain foods health-wise. And that's what I've been kind of noticing with the things that you're putting on your website, Lauren. That kind of way of thinking is what we should get to.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. Chris and myself are not believers in diets at all. But
it's a lifestyle.
Maintaining, always eating really clean, healthy food. The stuff in our fridge, and I usually stock it up on Sundays, is, grilled chicken, brown rice, quinoa, steamed broccoli, steamed veggies. So it's right there. It's easy to source. We don't eat out a lot. I think we both like to eat that way. And, I'll put some different, sauces on it, whether it's, coconut aminos or some hummus or something to or some sliced avocado. And frankly, if you gave me a choice of that meal, and I kind of create these little bowls with a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and they're like beautiful and colorful. And that's, what I'll put in front of Chris. And I think if you gave us a choice of a plate of spaghetti and meatballs or that, what would you choose, Chris? I'm asking.
Just kidding. No, I think, and I didn't always eat that way. I think growing up, I was super picky, very plain, typical kid. I ate hot dogs. I ate mac and cheese. I ate cereal. I ate, chocolate chip cookies and fruit roll. I mean, I was probably the anti-health kid growing up. Drank a lot of orange pop and all the rest of that stuff. But now it just bland. I like eating this stuff. It tastes good now for whatever reason. Back then it didn't taste good. Now it does. And I think as your palate, as you travel, you eat differently.
Yes.
As you go along in life, your tastes change. And, and now it's pretty tasty.
And I think at the end of the day, it comes down to it's satisfying and how do you walk away from that meal? Like sometimes, we could go to our favorite Italian restaurant and, geez, it tastes so good going down. You leave there. And especially when you haven't had that in your system, the salt, the butter, the oil. And I'm not saying, I use that in small portions when I cook, and you have such a rich, just like stomach of, what did I eat? You really kind of you crave just that consistency of eating clean. And I grew up that way.
I was going to ask, how did it come at a certain time, but that's how you grew up?
Yeah, I think my mom, she's an incredible cook, and she had a garden at the house. I think a lot of it probably had to do with my dad's health and so forth. But her mother was a wonderful cook too, and they always had a garden. So it was kind of passed down. And, I grew up at our kitchen counter watching my mom chef up these incredible meals, but everything was fresh vegetables and, sustainable items and just olive oil, lemon, garlic, all the basics. And, so I think I learned that value at a young age. And it was kind of funny because I used to go to my neighbor's house because they were like what Chris was saying. He grew up, eating, they'd have like the Kraft mac and cheese and the Doritos and whatever. And I would go there and I would eat all that crap. And then I'd come home and just like it is now, I kind of felt, like, what did I eat? And so I think when you grow up that way, you just kind of, your body, that's about all you want to crave.
What happens when you can't cook and you have little ones?
But you know what, honestly, it is so, and I've gone through so many different nutritional schools, and they support the same way I cook. And Jill, I get it. Like, my girlfriends come over and they see me. I usually cook a lot, like mass amounts at a time, because we have a big family and a lot of big eaters. So they'll come over and they're mesmerized by like, wait, you chopped that onion. Start over again. How did you chop that up?
Right.
Or you peeled that garlic. And it honestly, it's such basic ingredients. And I don't know, like, okay, roasting beets. I chop up the beets. I peel the beets, chop them up. Put some garlic in, toss it with some olive oil, throw it on a pan and put it in the oven. And come on, you could do that.
This is my problem.
Yeah.
I am kind of type A personality, OCD, so I like to bake because I can follow a recipe. And the instructions are right there. I know exactly what to do. Cooking scares me because I know a lot of times people just throw things together and it comes out amazing. And
a pinch and a bushel and a...
Right. And I'm like, this
well, my
doesn't
pinch
taste
is bigger
like
than your
this.
pinch.
Right. And so
You're right.
get in my head about that.
And I think that's what I observed from my mom. She never had a recipe. So to me, it was just like...
I'm envious of that.
But hey, come on over. I'm going to give you some cooking lessons. We'll have fun. Next time we visit, you come over and...
Oh, don't think that I will not take you up on that.
Oh, it's
and
on,
my husband's
girls.
like,
Yes.
go there
I promise.
now.
It is so... And actually, you can go on Well Inspired Travels and see some of the recipes.
I've started looking at them.
Okay,
The
you try
chocolate one?
Yes,
Mm.
yes.
Oh.
So super basic. And if you need any help, call me up. I'll walk you through it. I'll
I'm
come over to your
going
house
to.
and we'll do it together.
Your number's 411, right?
Yes, it is.
How did you two meet?
Oh,
Feel free.
oh gosh. A girlfriend of mine.
Should I use my line?
What is it?
Do you know where the airport is?
Oh God, no. That's
No.
just kidding. Okay.
It's a joke that I
It's an inside
Oh, my
joke,
God.
but
it's a joke I always use, and
So, girlfriend of mine, I was coming out of a long-term relationship, and so she thought it was time for me to meet somebody new, and I was not in that mindset at all. But she, I guess, strategically had this evening planned out. She was good friends with one of Chris's best friends on the team, backup goalie Jamie McLennan, one of our very dear friends, Noodles, and
Noodles.
yes, so
the noodler.
she was good friends with him, and somehow they connected this evening of, hey, let's introduce Chris and Lauren together. I had no clue. So we meet, and Chris, is very, especially back in the day, he's come out of his shell tremendously over the last 20 years, but I mean, I don't know what that's about or anything, but so he was very quiet, very shy. I
Really?
might have had, just a few very small conversations with him. So I walked away from the evening being like, because Suzanne, my girlfriend, said, hey, what do you think? And I said, oh, he's a nice guy, not too much, didn't think too much about it. And so he called my house, my apartment, and do you want to say...
Well, go ahead.
The line.
You continue.
Okay. So my other roommate picks up the phone. This is back when we had, phones on the wall and everything, not cell phones.
The rotary dial.
We're dating ourselves here, but so she picks up the phone, and I think I was in the shower or something, and he's like, yeah, is Lauren there? And she's, no, I'm sorry, she's busy. I'll have her call you. And he goes, okay, well, have her call Chris Pronger. And she goes, oh, okay, Chris Pronger. So she hangs up the phone, and she comes in and she's like, Lauren, Chris Pronger, not just Chris, some guy, Chris Pronger called you. And I was like, oh, okay.
How are you supposed to know how many Chris she knows?
I was not that kind of girl.
Popular girl. What are you going to do?
So anyway, I called him back, and he was he was headed on a West Coast trip that week. And my ex-boyfriend at the time was coming back from a trip on the East Coast, and I was very honest and upfront, and we were still friends at that time. We were in that transition of, okay, you break up, but you still see each other all the time, and so, and it was very peaceful. So I said, okay, I have to pick so-and-so up from the airport, as I promised, about 5:00, and because Chris had planned this for when he was coming back from the West Coast swing trip, that we were going to get together. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm not free that evening. And he said, well, hold on.
We had a couple days off. Coming home, we had a couple days off, so it was a green light.
And this is in January, so keep this in mind. And so he steps away from the phone for a quick second, because I think he knew. He was like, I got to get in before this guy comes back. He hops back on the phone. He goes, never mind. He goes, actually, it's a party at noon on Saturday in January. And I was like, okay, well, what's the party for? And at your house? Like, well, what's going on? Is there a football game I don't know about? Or no, it's just, I'm going to have, barbecue a couple guys over. I was like, okay, sure. I talked to my girlfriend. I said, okay, you're only going, you got me into this. If you go, I'll go. She said, okay. Of course, she's, excited about the guys that are going to be there and everything. So we go, and let me tell you, Jill, he had his game on.
Like, it was like,
oh my,
yes.
In that moment, I was like, I'm in love with this guy. Like, he is.
You weren't like, this is too much.
No. He was everything. He's still, and I mean, of course, we've got a lot of fire in our marriage, and it's been.
She yells at me a lot.
Oh gosh,
I don't know why.
But it's been a very successful marriage. But I will say one of the top things that I love about you most is his sense of humor, and he won me over with his sense of humor, and to this day, it's still the same way. But he, had me kind of at the breakfast counter. He had a couple drinks lined up, and it was just turn it on, game on, and keep her laughing. Next thing I know, I get a phone call from my brother who says, you're supposed to be picking so-and-so up from the airport. And it was really bad. He was very upset about where I was.
I don't know what happened.
And I said, okay, you know what? I'm sorry. This is the whole reason why we broke up in the first place. So I'm staying, and I don't know. Anyway, so long story short, that was January. He proposed in April, right before the playoffs. Yeah, it worked. We had a 1.5-year engagement, and coming up on how many years of marriage, Chris?
How many, Lauren? 18.
I was quizzing you.
No, I quiz you. She gets it wrong all the time.
Does she?
Yeah.
Not.
If I did, you know what would happen.
You would know about it.
Oh, yeah, you know it.
So, yes, it was. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, the best is that she can't stay mad.
She can't.
Drives her nuts because then I start making jokes and she's...
And then you laugh and...
Stop it. Stop doing that.
Did I get that right? Or is there anything you want to add?
I mean,
Your
we don't have 4 hours for my version, so yes.
It sounds good.
It's close enough.
Now, I have to ask, though, did it intimidate you at all knowing what Chris did or what you were going to get into?
Well, having 2 older brothers that love sports and so forth, how do I strategically say this? Chris was obviously known as a man about town. I think my brothers were, well, I mean, you had a lot of course, you're a very handsome superstar athlete, captain of the St. Louis Blues. So my brothers, who are a bit older than me, were always, they'd be at the bars and they would see him and so forth. So as soon as I, said, oh, okay, going on my first date with so-and-so, then they were like, you know what? We love him as a superstar hockey player. Huge fans, but not necessarily huge fans for our sister. Oh. So I said, you know what?
And they didn't even know me.
Yes. But no, they just, they're protective. And
just like your sons are going to be.
Yes.
We hope.
I was not a huge, hockey, big fan and didn't go to a lot of games and so forth. I knew who he was, but, I was protective even with myself because, we all know stories of people and what could happen. So anyway, I really felt it in my bones, though, that he was worth trusting and giving it a solid shot. So I said to my parents and to my brothers, I said, you know what? You've got to meet him because he's pretty solid, and I'm really enjoying his company and so forth. And so I think as soon as they met him as well, that they felt a tremendous amount of trust. And obviously it happened so fast, and it worked. So my brothers absolutely adore Chris. Probably best friends with them, and my parents, feel the same way. So
I met her parents on our 3rd date after a Rams game.
Oh boy,
where I knew the beer vendor. That's never a good thing.
That's another episode too.
Yeah,
that's another 4-hour one.
Before we wrap up, in a serious note with the well-inspired travel, Chris, you wrote recently on your Instagram about.
I have an Instagram account.
Oh.
You do. It's at the Chris Pronger.
True.
Follow him. He is
True.
very entertaining.
Legit. That's
and
legit,
very
that one.
Spiritual and soulful.
Yes, this is the Soulful
This is real
Sunday
stuff.
post
This
that
is
I'm
real
talking
stuff
about.
we're talking about.
And you should also follow Well Inspired Travels on Instagram, as well as Lauren Pronger. But on your Instagram account, Chris, you talked about how your beautiful wife, Lauren, helped you through a very dark time, the career-ending concussion, how you are happy that concussions are now being talked about. And on a totally minor level, I used to coach cheerleading on the high school and college level, and concussions were such a serious thing, but the athletes just didn't get it. They put me in, I'm fine. And they did not understand what could happen from a concussion long term. And so you talked a little bit about this in your post and the dark times for yourself as a husband, as a father, as a friend, and I know it kind of ties into well-inspired travel, so I just wanted you to touch on that just a little bit.
I started playing pro in '93, but obviously played hockey from the age of 5. And, you take hits. You don't, back then there was really no such thing as a concussion. It was a stinger, or I saw stars, or, I got a headache or whatever. It wasn't a concussion. And so you just kept playing. You just continued on. And I think as my career evolved and I started to play junior and then turned pro, you wanted to play. There was competition within the locker room and on the team as to playing time,
Right.
making the team, all the rest of that stuff. So, if you miss a bunch of games, you might lose your job. So you always, everybody was it was ingrained in you to continue to play. And, that's what you're getting paid to do, play. So I kind of lived by that edict and really took it to the next level where, a lot of times you're not healthy. I mean, I don't know if I ever played a completely healthy hockey game, maybe when I was 11.
Isn't that scary?
But I mean, you got a sore groin or you got a sore shoulder or, it is what it is. It's a physical sport, and it takes a lot out of you, and it takes a lot to play the game. So, you understand that going in, and, it's a type of game that, as we just saw here in St. Louis, I mean, it can bring a city together, and it can galvanize a city. But as a player, you do go through tough times. I've had 14 surgeries and I don't know how many concussions and different breaks and strains and sprains and different things. And, it takes its toll on you after a while. And I think once that, the eye injury with the concussion when I was in Philly kind of was the last straw. And, I was dizzy for, a couple of years, and, I struggled. My eye was bothering me, and, it took me a couple months to get glasses, and struggled with that part of it because it was because I didn't have glasses on, my eye was constantly blurry and trying to refocus, and it was giving me headaches and making the headaches even worse. And so I kind of had to figure that out, and then I worked on my eye because I had so much trauma to my eye. I needed to really retrain it and kind of get it to where it is now. And and then obviously, driving, like I think I wrote in there, I'd drive a car and I'd have sunglasses on at night because the oncoming headlights bothered my eyes. And, so there's all kinds of different things that you go through that, at the time you don't want to talk about. You really kind of want to keep everything in and kind of fight it on your own. And, I think she saw that's how I was my whole career, and try to get healthy on your own. You work with rehab and specialists and all the rest of that. But she was with me through it all and kind of saw the evolution of it and kind of steered me in the right direction and was very supportive and getting me to the right people, and as were the Flyers. And, ultimately saw Mickey Collins in Pittsburgh and did a lot of eye therapy and stuff with my head. He's kind of the one that steered us towards not playing again. And then obviously I met with the owner in Philly, who was great. And Mr. Snyder was top notch in understanding, and looked at my medical file and was like, his son-in-law is a doctor, and he looked at it and he goes, how's this guy playing? How many concussions this guy had? And, looking at all the injuries and all the things that had gone on throughout my career. And, I'm pretty grateful for that. And having an owner like that is pretty special. But, she was as supportive, and the kids were as supportive. It was not the easiest for a long time. And, it takes its toll on the kids, too. They see their dad sitting in the dark and see, the different things that you're going through. And, but once you kind of turn the corner and get out of it a little bit, you start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and you start kind of digging your way out, and the support system around you definitely helps.
And I think, that's a platform that Chris and myself really want to support and be there for people, because I think it's a success story of we were there. I mean, Chris was there in those dark, dark times. Our kids witnessed it. And, there's a lot, I think, out there as far as networks and supports from athlete to athlete, like that Chris has with his buddies within their sports communities. But I don't know a lot about women and wives, girlfriends, mothers, children being there for each other, because that is a really scary time for everybody involved. I mean, I remember some of those really awful times, just crying and wondering if Chris would ever be whole again and if this was just life. And that is such a scary place to be in. And so to have somebody, I am open and really wanting, and I think Chris is too, to pick up the phone. And I will tell you, we were there, but here are the steps that we took. And it may be different for each family and each athlete that's trying to heal from this, or whoever it is that's trying to heal from a concussion. We're, success and a light at the end of the tunnel of saying, just you got to stick with it. And I think we really feel it is our responsibility to share that. And because I am beyond grateful for where we stand and how Chris fought for his life, because he's the leader of our family and I couldn't do it without him.
I know we're not getting completely into it now, the dark times, and that you are not saying, oh, everything was great.
Yeah.
And that's not what people need to hear. They need to hear that there are dark times. Lauren, it sounds like you have another project after Well Inspired Travels settles down for you, some sort of support group.
Yeah.
We can come up with a name.
I love it.
On that.
Yes.
That's so awesome, though, because you're right. The wife-to-wife, girlfriend, kids. It made me think of this camp that is local for kids whose parents have cancer or had cancer. And so this is an outlet for them. So,
yeah.
But right now, Well Inspired Travels, wellinspiredtravels.com. Follow them on Facebook, on Instagram, and...
Oh, I do have an Instagram account.
Yeah, and those glasses.
Yes.
When you were talking about the glasses, I thought about the little
I
thing.
had to put those on for therapy. Those things were...
Those made my head hurt.
Yeah.
But you can see him at the Chris Pronger on Instagram. I wish you two nothing but the best with this. I can't wait to keep following your journey and maybe become a cook.
Yes.
I can't say good cook or better cook.
You can do it. And by the way, you can do it all on the weekend, so it's in the fridge and ready to roll.
Yes.
Okay. I might hire you for a little bit until I get ready. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me for today's episode. Make sure you subscribe, rate, and if you're feeling really generous, write me a review. And don't forget to join me next week for a new episode of Two Kids and a Career.